Well, welcome back to another video. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer and creator at the Clark & Addison Gaming Company. In this video, we're going to go through the second part of the Decade Greats set that will be coming out soon. Happy opening day, by the way. It's Thursday, March 28th when I record this, so it's opening day 2024. And in a previous video, I went through the 1940s to the 1970s. In this video, I'm going to go from the 80s all the way to 2019. So the 80s, 90s, the aughts, the 2000s, and then the teens, which would be 2010 to 19. So let's just walk through these cards. For the 1980s, this is Jack Morris. Again, these cards are, or these players are ranked from a website that I found online that had sort of a mathematical formula for ranking all the best players. So essentially I took the top 11 pitchers and I took the top 2 players at each position, and then for the 2 DHs it was basically, let's say there were already 2 first basemen, and then the next best hitter in the rankings was a first baseman. He gets a DH slot. So those are the 2 best players that didn't fit into the top 2 of any particular position. So when you're looking at the DHs, that's kind of how you're thinking about it. But we got Jack Morris. 33 is his stamina. In 1983 with the Tigers, he was 20-13 with a 3.34 ERA. Nolan Ryan, of course, king of the 70s and the 80s. He's actually in the 70s set. I don't know if he's right here on top. No. But we went through those cards before in the previous video. But in the 80s, his best season was actually with the Astros, a 247 FIP. He was only 8-16 in that year, so kind of a strange season as far as wins are concerned, but had 270 Ks in 211 innings pitched. I played a demo game actually with him starting the game. Doc Gooden, 1984, he was 17-9 with a 2.60 ERA, a 169 FIP, 276 Ks in 218 innings, only 7 home runs in 218 innings. He also pitched in the demo game I played. You can find that on this channel. It's one of the last 1 or 2 videos that I've posted here. Bob Welch for the Dodgers in 86. He was only 7-13, again like Nolan Ryan, but 278 FIP, 235 innings pitched. Fernando Valenzuela, the left-hander, for the 86 Dodgers also, 21-11 with a 3.14 ERA in 269 innings pitched. Oral Hershiser for the 85 Dodgers, 19-3 with a minuscule 2.03 ERA, 273 FIP. He pitched 239 innings. Mike Scott, again with the Astros in 86, he was 18-10 with a 2.22 ERA, 306 strikeouts in 275 innings pitched. Mark Langston, the lefty, pitched for Montreal, pitched for Seattle for a long time. He was 12-9 in 1989 with the Expos with a 2.39 ERA. His FIP was 3.32. Excellent left-handed option. Steve Carlton, the big lefty, he's here too. You can see from the 70s, and now he's in the 80s. He's one of the top 5 pitchers from the 1980s, and his 1982 Phillies season was 23-11 with a 2.41 FIP, 3.10 ERA, almost 300 innings pitched that year. And Roger Clemens, of course, from the 80s, got his start in the 80s. He's in the 80s, 90s, and I believe we'll see him in 3 different sets. I think he's the only player who crosses 3 different decades. So it's really a shame. It's a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's probably the best pitcher of all time. Roger Clemens, 18-12, a 2.93 ERA for the 88 Sox, a 2.17 FIP, 291 Ks in 264 innings pitched. Mario Soto slips in. He's actually one of the top 5 pitchers of the 1980s. He was 14-13 for the Reds in 1982, 242 FIP. And then we got our players here. Let's see. I don't know if everybody's upside down. Hopefully they're right side up. I was playing with this team, so I kind of had them already separated out. Mike Schmidt for the 80 Phillies, 52.9 batting runs, 9 WAR with 48, not 408, but 48 home runs, 121 RBIs. He hit 286 in 1980. Also in 1980, George Brett with a 9.1 WAR, hit 390, was flirting with 400, 24 homers, 118 RBIs. His OPS was 1118. Robin Yount, terrific year, 1982. That was a good year for the Brew Crew. 331 average, 29 homers, 114 RBIs, almost a 10 WAR. Eddie Murray in 1983. For the Orioles, hit 33 home runs, 111 RBIs. He hit over 300, a 403 WOBA. Gary Carter, the kid, for the 82 Expos, had an 8.4 WAR. Look at this defensive rating. You don't see too many players with a 20-plus defensive rating, but Gary Carter, one of those. Like, that's Johnny Bench kind of numbers right there. 36 batting runs. He had a 388 WOBA, 29 homers, 97 RBIs. He almost hit 300 that year. Dewey Evans, right fielder for the Bo Sox in 87, was his best season of the 80s. 34 home runs, 123 RBIs. He hit 305 that season. Not a great defender. Ryan Sandberg, a very good defender, had an 8 WAR in 1984 for the Cubs. That was sort of a great run for those 84 Cubs. And a 142 weighted runs created plus. He had 19 homers, 84 RBIs as a second baseman. Rickey Henderson, 1985 with the Yankees was his best 80s season. Hit 314, 24 homers, 72 RBIs. He had 80 steals out of 90 attempts. So 80 out of 90, whatever, that's almost 90%. Kirby Puckett, actually it is 90%, right? Kirby Puckett, center fielder for the Twins in 88, hit 356, 24 bombs, 121 RBIs for a 7.1 WAR. Donnie Baseball, in 86, a magical year for him, hit 352, 31 homers, 113 RBIs. His batting runs was a 54, 7 WAR that year. Cecil Cooper, one of the top first basemen of the 1980s. He was right there with Mattingly. Mattingly was first. He was second. Cooper with a 40 batting runs in 1980 for the Brewers. 352 average, 25 homers, 122 RBIs, 403 WOBA. Tony Gwynn, the great right fielder for the Padres in 87. He had a 45 batting runs, hit 370, only 7 homers and 54 RBIs, but a 7.4 WAR. Always a solid, if unspectacular, right fielder. Tim Raines, Rock Raines, for the 86 Expos, stole 70 bases that year. Hit 334. He's a switch hitter and had a 6 WAR. I always thought he was a better defender than that, but I guess not. Cal Ripken, one of the great defenders of all time, in 83. It was a great season for him. 318, 27 homers, 102 RBIs, and an 8.5 WAR for the big shortstop. Dale Murphy, big right-handed stick for the Braves, 1987, 295 average with 44 homers and 105 RBIs. That tells me he probably hit a lot of solo home runs that year. 997 OPS, 7.1 WAR. Ted Simmons is in 2 sets. He's in the 70s and the 80s, and one of the best catchers of that generation. Switch hitting catcher, had a 26 batting runs in 1980 for the Cardinals. 303 average, 21 homers, 98 RBIs. Sweet Lou Whitaker for the 83 Tigers. 320 average with 12 homers and 72 RBIs. He had a batting runs of 25.7. 17 steals. I always thought Lou Whitaker was a little bit faster than that, but a little surprised at the steals there. And then Wade Boggs for the 87 Sox. 363 average, 24 homers, 89 RBIs. One of the best offensive third basemen in history. We'll move on to the 1990s. So these are the best players of the 1990s. We're starting to get into the guys that I remember. I mean, I remember collecting cards from the 80s, baseball cards, but that was sort of my first memories of baseball. And then the 90s was when I was playing in high school and and going through college. I was paying a lot more attention to baseball in the 90s than the 80s. I think the first World Series I remember watching was the 89 World Series. I think I remember watching the home run that Kirk Gibson hit in 88. I can't tell. You know, sometimes like in the age of video, I think my kids are going to go through this too. They're not going to quite know what they experienced and like in real time and what they experienced because they watched the videos. I kind of feel like that with Kirk Gibson's home run. Like I've watched that home run so many times. It feels like I watched it in real time, but the first time I actually have a memory of watching a World Series is 89. I loved Will Clark. I loved the Giants back then. I was really a big Cubs fan as well. And so 89 was a really good year for the teams that I liked. Not so much for the Braves. That sort of came at a later time for me, a few years later. And I think 91, I really started to pay attention. We had WTBS and we could watch the Braves. And once I was seeing them play in 90, 91, and then especially when Greg Maddux came over, because I've been watching him with the Cubs. Huge Braves fan now. Anyway, that trip down memory lane. 89 is the first World Series I remember, because I remember actually watching and getting ready for the game when the earthquake happened. So I just remember the excitement of that series because the Giants were in the World Series. But I had watched the playoffs up to that point as well. I think had seen the Cubs series, so which was really fun to watch, and you can go back and see those online. All right, Matty Williams. Speaking of the Giants, 1995 was his best season. One of the best third basemen of the 1990s. Had a 336 average, 23 homers, 65 RBIs in 1995. Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge, for the Rangers, grew up in Texas, so I watched a lot of Pudge Rodriguez. 332 average, 35 homers, 113 RBIs. I think is definitely his best offensive season. Was always an amazing defensive catcher, almost 30 defensive. His defense was almost a 30, which I've seen upwards of, Johnny Bench is in the 20 to 25 range, and Maurer and some others, but Pudge was unbelievable. That gave him a 6.8 WAR that year, which is really high for a catcher. Ryan Sandberg shows up in the 80s and the 90s set, one of the best second baseman of his generation, now a Hall of Famer. For the 92 Cubs, 304 average, 26 homers, 87 RBIs. Super consistent if you ever watched Rhino play. Kirby Puckett shows up again. He's in the 80s and the 90s, I believe, or the 90s and the 2000s. Let's see, I've got these switched around. I don't know why I did that. Kirby Puckett for the 92 Twins hit 329 with 19 homers, 110 RBIs, 5.9 WAR for Puckett. Albert Bell, one of the top sluggers of the 1990s. If you never got a chance to see Albert Bell punish baseballs, you should look it up. He had a 60 batting runs that year, and was 50 home runs, 126 RBIs for the 95 Indians. They lost to the Braves in the World Series, but to a man, the Braves pitcher said it was the best lineup they'd ever faced. So you're talking about Manny Ramirez, Kenny Lofton, Albert Bell, Eddie Murray, like an old Eddie Murray was in that lineup. Cal Ripken Jr. in the 91 Orioles, he hit 323 with 34 homers, 114 RBIs, a 10.6 WAR. Look at that defensive rating, 30. Unbelievable. At shortstop, nonetheless, which is just a difficult position. This defensive rating is weighted, by the way, so it takes into account the difficulty of each position. So playing shortstop is more difficult than playing, let's say, right field. So they take that into account. Chipper Jones, my man Chipper, 99, was an MVP year for him. 319, average 45 homers, 110 RBIs. Over 1,000 OPS that season. Switch hitter at third base. Rafi Palmeiro for the 99 Rangers, 324, 47 bombs, 148 RBIs. He also slugged 630. A-Rod, this is a young A-Rod with the Mariners in 1996. He had 55 batting runs, 358 average, 36 homers, 123 RBIs. One of the great players of all time. Craig Biggio, second baseman for the Astros. And Biggio, very underrated at second base. Maybe the best second baseman ever. I don't think that's a real stretch. He was fast. He was tough. He played all over the place. He started as a catcher. In 1997 for the Astros, hit 309 with 22 homers, 81 RBIs. Really, the Astros' inability to get past the championship round or the division series really kept Bagwell and Biggio off of the world stage, but just really good baseball players. Like growing up in Texas, we watched a lot of Houston games, and those guys were unbelievable. Ken Griffey Jr., speaking of unbelievable, 93 for the Mariners, 309 average, 45 bombs, 109 RBIs. One of the great defensive center fielders of all time, if not for his spectacular plays, just a solid, amazing center fielder. 8.4 WAR that season. Paul Molitor, getting toward the end of his career, started in the 80s. But for the 91 Brewers, he had 325 with 17 homers, 75 RBIs. He had a 145 weighted runs created plus. Bagwell, part of the Killer Bees with the Astros in the mid to late 90s. He had 31 homers, 120 RBIs, 315 average. This was in 1996. Mike Piazza, the big right-handed catcher, sort of a rags to riches story for Piazza. He was a nothing draft pick, and then for the Dodgers, then went on to fame. Had a 66 batting runs for the Dodgers in 97 before moving on to the Mets. 40 homers, 124 RBIs, a 362 average from your catcher. Man Ram, 99 with the Cleveland Indians was his best season of the 1990s. 61 batting runs, 7.5 WAR. He's a negative defender, and his WAR was 7.5. So tells you a lot, because WAR figures in defense. So 333 average, 44 homers, 165 RBIs for Manny Ramirez. Barry Bonds, the greatest left fielder of all time, maybe. Definitely in the conversation. 336 average, 46 homers, 123 RBIs. This was with 93 with the Giants. He didn't need to do anything he did. The man was amazing. He had almost a 200 weighted runs created plus. Walked 126 times in 159 games that season. Larry Walker, underrated. Walker played right field. He had a hose in right field, and he also played first base toward the end of his career, I think. 64 batting runs in 1997. This was a really good Rockies squad from like 96 to 99. 49 homers, 130 RBIs, 366 average. He also played with Montreal and had some great seasons in Montreal, so it wasn't just the air of Colorado. Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, 1994 was his best season of the 90s, had 72 batting runs, 353 average, 38 homers, 101 RBIs, only struck out 61 times during that season. We're getting into pitchers now. So Kurt Schilling for the 97 Phillies was 17-11 with a 2.97 ERA, 319 Ks in 254 innings pitched. Kevin Appier, maybe you forget about Kevin Appier, the right-hander from Kansas City in 93. He went 18-8 with a 2.90 FIP. Only 8 homers given up in 238 at-bats. I feel like I remember him having a pretty deadly sinker or changeup. Had a really funky delivery. I remember Appier having a real funky delivery. One of the best starting pitchers, one of the best left-handed pitchers of all time, Tommy Glavine, with the 92 Braves. So this is sort of pre-Maddox. If you remember, he was one of the first. Well, he was the first one to come up, and then it was Smoltz, and then Maddox came over. So before the big three were there, Tommy Glavine was making it happen in 92. 294 FIP. He was 20-8 that season. Only 129 Ks, but only 70 walks and 225 innings pitched. Pedro Martinez, an amazing season in 1999 for the slender right-hander. Look at this K to walk percentage. 37% K percentage, only a 4% walk percentage. Whip was under 1. He was 23-4 with a 139 FIP. Also not afraid to hit a few guys. Jose Rio for the Reds, 1991 was his best season. 15-6, but he was one of the top 10 pitchers in the 1990s. 253 FIP. He went 15-6 that year. 98 Padres, this is Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown, grew up watching him with the Rangers, and a little bit with the Padres as well, but part of those really good Padres teams in the late 90s. 18-7 with a 2.38 ERA. Exactly one strikeout per inning pitched. Johnny Smoltz. Not one of the top 5 of the 90s, but this was an unbelievable season. 1996 for the Braves. 24-8. 294 ERA, 276 Ks was the record until this past year for the Braves, when Spencer Strider went past him. Coney, for the 91 Mets, 14-14, so even record, but a 2.52 FIP, way outpacing his ERA. 240 Ks in 230 innings. Roger Clemens in 1990 for the Bo Sox, 21-6 with a 1.93 ERA. Whew, that's working it. And Gregory Maddux, 1995, he was 19-2 with a 1.63 ERA. His FIP that year was 2.26, so got a little help from his defense, maybe a little luck, but as if he needed it. He only walked 23 batters in 209 innings. I like that card. A 3% walk rate. Randy Johnson, the lefty, 1995 with the Mariners. So this is before moving on to the D-backs, which we'll see him in the next set as well with the Diamondbacks. 18-2 with a 2.48 ERA, a 2.08 FIP, 294 Ks in 214 innings. We move on to the 2000s. Speaking of Pedro, you see Pedro here. Pedro in 2000, the year 2000, he was 18-6 with a 1.74 ERA. 284 Ks in 217 innings pitched, 35% K percentage, only a 4% walk percentage. His whip is .74. Chris Carpenter was a big right-hander for the Cardinals through the 2000s, was a really good number 1 starter. 17-4 was his best season, 2009. 3.43 Sierra. Sierra is called Skills Interactive or Skill Interactive ERA. Basically, Sierra takes into account a pitcher's ability to pitch, so a little bit more of the soft skills than FIP. FIP is just looking at sort of your big 3: walks, strikeouts, home runs, but and then sort of stripping out anything else. But Sierra takes into account some of the other StatCast type statistics I think that we have from 2002. So it takes into account some of the newer statistics to give a more full picture of a pitcher. So I like to use Sierra whenever I can. And if it's past 2002, you'll see some of these guys have Sierras, some don't. So for this season in 2000, that didn't exist, so that's why it's not there. So you can use FIP or Sierra, whichever one you want. 343 for Carpenter. He was 17-4 that season. Yohan Santana, he pitched in the demo game that I played against the 1980s, and the 80s team won 6-4 in that game. Santana, a terrific left-handed pitcher, 16-7 in 2005 for the Twins, a 2.95 Sierra. Roy Oswalt, also part of those really good Houston teams around the turn of the century, 19-9 in 2002 with a 3.01 ERA. Kerry Wood, big right-hander. I remember watching the 20 strikeout game. It was unbelievable against those Astros, actually. 2001, he was 12-6 with a 3.36 ERA. Only pitched 174 innings, but had 217 Ks. Also not afraid to hit some guys. Jake Peavy. You can see him on MLB Network, I think, now. He had a 19-6 record for the 2007 Padres. 2.54 ERA. Roger Clemens, he makes his way into his third pile, so he's in all three from the 80s through to the 2000s, one of the top 11 pitchers of the 2000s as well. He's in a relief role, so he wasn't quite in that top 5 at this point. But 13-8 with a 1.87 ERA in 2005 for the Astros. Pretty good card. CC Sabathia, the big man from the left side. With the 2007 Indians, he was 19-7 with a 3.21 ERA. Gave up a lot of home runs. Jason Schmidt, he's kind of forgotten a lot. He started with the Braves as a young player and then wound up making hay with the Giants. He was 17-5 with a 2.34 ERA, 3.17 Sierra in 2003 for the Giants. Really good right-hander. Kurt Schilling, still bringing it in the 2000s. 2002, he was 23-7. So this is coming off of their 2001 World Series win. 23-7 with a 3.23 ERA. He had 316 Ks in 259 innings. Dominant. 31 K percentage to a 3 walk percentage. Randy Johnson. This is the year that they won the World Series. He was 21-6 with a 2.49 ERA, a 2.13 FIP, 372 Ks in 249 innings. I remember watching them that season too, and it was like, if you had 2 strikes, you were done. You weren't coming out of that at bat. Unbelievable. One of the greatest offensive seasons of all time. This is Ruthian. Barry Bonds for the Giants in 2001. 73 homers, 137 RBIs, 328 average. He walked 177 times in 153 games, so more than a walk a game. He still managed to hit 30 doubles, and his weighted runs created was 235. If you're at 150, you're competing for an MVP, probably. He was at 235. 1,300 OPS. These are just like top 5 seasons of all time in baseball history kind of numbers. Albert Pujols, 74 batting runs. Also a terrific season in 2003. 359 average with 43 homers, 124 RBIs. 9.5 WAR for a guy who's a negative fielder. David Ortiz, Big Papi. 2007 with the Red Sox, 332 average, 35 homers, 117 RBIs. An excellent hitter who the Twins gave up on early in his career, if you could believe it. Vladdy Guerrero, he came out, he was probably born hitting a baseball. Batting runs of 51.9, 345 average, 44 homers, 123 RBIs. There was no ball that you could throw anywhere that he couldn't hit squarely. Joe Mauer, batting runs of 52.9. I think that's the highest of any catcher that I've seen. I think maybe Johnny Bench had a higher, but I can't remember. Good defender, excellent defender. Not much speed though. But 1,000 OPS, 365 average, 28 homers, 96 RBIs for the 2009 Twins. A-Rod makes it into the 2000s as well, this time with the Yankees as a third baseman, so shortstop with the Mariners in the 90s. And his best season was a 66.5 batting runs, 9.5 WAR, 314 average, 54 bombs, 156 RBIs. That's Manny Ramirez worthy right there. Grady Sizemore. I don't know too many people remember Grady. Big, slender left-hander for the Cleveland Indians. 290 average, 28 homers, 76 RBIs. A really nice blend of speed and power in center field for the Indians. Derek Jeter with the 06 Yankees had a 6 WAR, 343 average, 14 homers, 97 RBIs. Terrific player. 138 weighted runs created plus. Speaking of Man Ram, his best season from the 2000s was for the 2000 Indians. 351 average, 38 homers, 122 RBIs, an 1154 OPS. He slugged almost 700. Many consider him to be top 5 right-handed bat of all time. Chase Utley, the left-handed second baseman for the Phillies during their championship runs. 2007, he batted .332 with 22 homers, 103 RBIs. That was almost an 8 WAR season for him. 419 WOBA. Miggy Cabrera for the 2006 Marlins before he went over to the Tigers had a 47 batting run season, 339 average, 26 homers, 114 RBIs. Always terrific bat-to-ball skills, always a high average, always popping his bat. Carlos Beltran, 39 batting runs with the Mets. He also played for the Astros, I believe. Switch hitting center fielder, 41 bombs, 116 RBIs at Shea Stadium, nonetheless. Lance Berkman, the switch hitting Houston Astros first baseman / right fielder / left fielder / center fielder / wherever he needed to play. 57.9 batting runs and just a terrific hitter. 331 average, 34 homers, 126 RBIs. Berkman, really unassuming and gets lost in the 2000s, I think. Chef for the 2000 Dodgers, 325 average, 43 homers, 109 RBIs. That was his best statistical year as far as batting runs are concerned for the 2000s. Jorge Posada, switch hitting catcher. He was the best catcher, I believe, of that era. No, he would have been second, I think, to Mauer. 338 average, though, 20 homers, 90 RBIs. Always good with the bat and a good enough defender. Todd Helton with the 2000 Rockies. Unbelievable year. Hit 372, 42 homers, 147 RBIs. Got to see a lot of Helton play in the 2000s and just a terrific ball player. 162 weighted runs created plus. Good defender as well at first base. Alfonso Soriano. We sometimes forget about Soriano as well. Played for the Yankees in 2002. Came up with the Yankees and then eventually went over, got a big contract with the Cubs and didn't disappoint here in Chicago either. 28 batting runs, 39 homers, 102 RBIs. Hit 300 as a young player in 2002. And then last, Hanley Ramirez, which he sometimes gets lost in the shuffle with Jeter and some others in the 2000s as well. But with Florida in 2007, 332 average, 29 homers, 81 RBIs. It felt like people were always waiting for Hanley Ramirez to blossom, and he finally did. Played for the Red Sox as well. I think everybody could see his skill. They were just waiting for it to happen. Buster Posey. We're moving on into the teens now, out of the aughts and into the teens. So this is players from 2010 to 2019. So some of these players are still in the league today, and they would have been, very young back then. So Buster Posey just retired. Best catcher of the last 20 years, probably. 2012 for the Giants. I think that was a championship year for them, or at least they went. 336 average, 24 homers, 103 RBIs. slugged at a 549 rate for a catcher. Look at that defensive rating, 36.5, one of the great catchers of all time. Joe Mauer makes his way into a second set, and so he was one of the best of the 2000s. He's one of the top catchers of the teens as well. Had a 28 batting runs in 2012, getting toward the end of his career, 319 average, only 10 homers and 85 RBIs, but 4.5 WAR. Josh Donaldson, we sometimes forget because we only remember Josh Donaldson from the last 3 or 4 years. But this season was monster. 284 average, 37 homers, 99 RBIs. Good defender. Historically a good defender, not great here. Xander Bogaerts, shortstop for this time for the Red Sox in this season, playing for, of course, San Diego now. 141 weighted runs created plus, 309 average, 33 homers, 117 RBIs for Xander. Nelson Cruz, big right-handed bat for Seattle in 2015, hit 302 with 44 homers, 93 RBIs, a 5 WAR out of a mostly DH spot. Frankie Lindor, switch hitting shortstop for the Mets now. In 2018 in Cleveland, he hit 277 with 38 homers and 92 RBIs. 7.8 WAR. Look at that defensive rating, 20.9. Robinson Cano, Robbie Cano, left-handed stick, in 2012 for the Yankees, hit 313 with 33 homers and 94 RBIs. Nolan Arenado, now with the Cardinals, but in 2018 with the Rockies, he hit 297 with 38 homers, 110 RBIs, 6.2 WAR, obviously. A great third baseman, one of the best of his generation. Jose Bautista, we sometimes forget about Bautista too. I mean, this guy could rake. 2011 with the Blue Jays, 61.4 batting runs. He hit 302 with 43 homers and 103 RBIs. I remember he had another season that was almost exactly like this. It was like he had to choose between them. So just a stellar right-handed bat for Toronto. Paul Goldschmidt, Goldie with the Diamondbacks in 2015, 321, 33 homers, 110 RBIs. He had over 1,000 OPS, 418 WOBA. Now with the Cardinals. Trouter, in 2013 with the Angels, this is another one you had to kind of pick between a couple of different seasons. But this statistically the best season, 62 batting runs, 323 average, 27 homers, 97 RBIs, had over 100 walks that season. Ryan Braun, who retired early into the teens, but still one of the better left fielders during the 2000 teens. With the 11 Milwaukee Braves, 332 with 33 homers and 111 RBIs. Think what you think about him, the guy could hit the ball. Joey Votto still playing, hanging on. 2015 with the Reds, he hit 314 with 29 homers and 80 RBIs. 7.3 WAR. Andrew McCutchen, also still kind of hanging on there. 49.8 batting runs with the 2014 Pirates. 314 average, 25 homers, 83 RBIs. Had 18 stolen bases out of 21. Christian Yelich with the Brewer Crew in 2018. Maybe this was his first year with the Brewers after the trade. I can't remember, something like that. 53 batting runs, 7.7 WAR. Always good speed, stole 22 bases, 326 average, 36 homers, 110 RBIs. Jose Altuve, the diminutive one, had a 48.7 batting runs in 2017 for the Astros. 346 average, 24 homers, 81 RBIs. Mookie Betts in 2018 for the Sox, 62 batting runs, had a 346 average, 32 homers, 80 RBIs, a 10.4 WAR, playing in right field. Miggy Cabrera, 68 batting runs in 2013 for the Tigers. I think this was the year they were making a run in the playoffs. 348 average, 44 homers, 137 RBIs. Just 193 weighted runs created plus. Spectacular Hall of Fame third baseman. All right, we're getting into the pitchers. So Madison Bumgarner, 18-10 in 2014 for the Giants. 298 SIERA. Terrific left-handed pitcher with a funky delivery. Corey Kluber, big right-hander for the Indians. 2014, he was 18-9 with a 2.44 ERA, 269 Ks that season. Chris Sale, now pitching with the Braves, hoping for good things. In 2018 with the Red Sox, didn't pitch a lot, but this was his best season. Statistically, 12-4 with a 2.11 ERA. He had another season that was equivalent, but I think he threw fewer innings or something like that. I tried to make sure that guys threw at least like 150, 160 innings, like that they qualified for that sort of single season. David Price, sometimes we forget about David Price, but with the Tampa Bay Rays in 2014, he was 11-8 with a 2.63 SIERA, 189 Ks and 170 innings pitched. This is the only relief pitcher in the entire set, Craig Kimbrell, and you'll see why. I mean, this is an unbelievable year, 2012 for the Braves. He pitched in 63 games. He had 42 saves, a 1.01 ERA in 62 innings. He had 116 Ks in 62 innings pitched, good for a 50% K percentage against a 6% walk percentage. Only gave up 3 home runs in 60 innings and at a .75. Either a SIERA or FIP. Take your chance. Take your pick. Steven Strasburg, 2014 for the Washington Nationals. 14-11 with a 2.64 SIERA, 242 Ks in 215 innings. King Felix, in 2014 for the Mariners, went 15-6 with a 2.14 ERA. Only 46 walks in 236 innings pitched. Jacob deGrom, 2018 for the Mets. I don't know if you remember watching this, but he was lights out for 2 or 3 years. 10-9 with a 1.70 ERA, 278 SIERA. So he pitched. He was getting a little bit of help along the way, but had 269 Ks in 217 innings pitched. Clayton Kershaw, best lefty of his generation. 2014 for the Dodgers, was 21-3. He had a couple of 20-win seasons. 1.77 ERA, 239 Ks in less than 200 innings. Gives him a 32% K percentage against just a 4% walk percentage. So Maddox-like in his walks to innings pitched. Justin Verlander, still going strong and back with the Astros, but in 2018 he went 16-9 with a 2.52 ERA, 290 Ks and only 214 innings pitched. That's good for a 35.4% walk rate. And then Max Scherzer. These two definitely probably going into the Hall of Fame together. 18-7 with the 2018 Nats. 253 average, 300 Ks and 220 innings pitched. So again, 35-6 K to walk percentage, 271 SIERA. So that walks you through the 1980s all the way through 2019. So these are, again, the greats of their decades. They were ranked by a website that I found online. And if I can remember it to put it in the description, I'll remember to put that website in there. And you can go and check those out. You can see all throughout history that they had done some numerical rankings for all of the Major League Baseball decades. So with this set, you're going to get all of these cards. You'll get all of these cards as roster sheets, just like this. This is the projected roster sheets for this year. But you'll get their names and you'll get all of the information that you find on the cards will actually be in the roster sheets. So you can play from the cards and cut them all out, just like I've done. It takes about 20 minutes or so to cut out all the cards. Or you can play right off the roster sheets and you just transfer all that data onto a score sheet. So if I have the score sheet. So just like this, you would transfer their name, position, etc., and then you would transfer all of their data, so their batting runs, defense, and speed. You transfer those over to the score sheet, and then you just play straight off the score sheet. You don't really need the cards to play, but if you want to play the cards, then all of the what we do on the game engine chart. So if you play with the roster sheet, you're going to have to use this game engine chart, which has all the different columns. And basically, for a guy, let's say, who's a 236 FIP, he would be pitching out of this column here. So you would compare him against here, and if there's a blank, you go over to whatever the role is for the batter, and then you would check the batter column. Let's say it's a 40, it will be column 1. So if it's a 14, there's a blank, but over here you go to the batter card, and that's a long single. So that's it's easy to play that way, and you just need those game engine charts in order to be able to play with the roster sheets. If you're playing with the cards, you just roll straight off of the cards, right? You got a 236. If there's a blank spot on the card at a 14, then you would just go straight over to Hanley Ramirez, and then it would be whatever it is, right? I showed you a game. It's different on this card because this is a modern game engine chart. There's also one from the 2000s that you can get as well. They're free game engine charts that you can download from clarkandaddisongaming.com. Just click up on the top where the big green button is. It says shop all, shop everything, or shop all games, or something like that. It's a big green button, and it just takes you to everything listed in newest release to latest, like oldest release. And then on the left hand side you can see there's a free link, and you can just click on that, and it'll show you all the free things that we have. All those game engine charts are there, and you can click on those game engine charts and download them, and you can play this game. The goal and the thing that I wanted to do with On Base is to give you everything. So if you download the free DIY kit, which is in that free section as well, you're going to get everything that you need to play, just not the players. So if you want to go and do the legwork of looking up the players, or you want to put together your own sets, you can do that. And then you just need to make sure that you get their batting, defense, and speed ratings, and then their FIP, and you can figure their stamina pretty easily I use total batters faced divided by games, and that gives me this number, the stamina number. So, gives you a pretty good approximation. And then you can decide, do you want to use that number as a hard cap? Like once they get to 34, they have to come out of the game. I like to say if they're going to go out to the next inning and they're past that stamina number, then they drop down a column, so to speak. So if they're starting here and they go out past their stamina, the next inning they have to go here, and then the next inning they have to go here. So you get progressively worse in that way, and it's kind of just easy to remember. If you're playing with the cards, inside the game guide there is a sheet or a page that basically has all of these listed, and you can just kind of make them go down in that column. Yeah, I can't think of what else. There's a lot of players here. Whatever there is, there are 18 position players, and there are 11 pitchers. So what is that? That makes 29 players, and then times 8. So 29 times 8. That's what, 250 players or so, 240 players. And so it's a lot of players. These are a lot of Hall of Famers, and then Hall of Good. There's a lot of Hall of Good players. There's a lot of Hall of Fame players in this set, and maybe just taking you down memory lane. The impetus for this was just, most of us get into this. We love collecting cards, and we love watching baseball, and the reason that we love it is because of the stars, right? We love to watch people who are really great. And we also like to watch guys who aren't very good come up big. That's part of sports, and we like to see the underdog win, and some of us like to see the winners win. And for whatever reasons, we love what we love about the sport. But sometimes we get caught playing the seasons, and it's like, you know, you got your second ranked shortstop on a last place team who's at bat, and it's not always very fun. There's not a lot of stars all the time that you're playing in your game. But here, these are all, almost everybody is batting out of one of these top two columns. I think there's only one pitcher batting out of the second column, but every other pitcher is coming out of the first column. And it's just, you're talking about the greatest players of all time. And just to be able to put them on the field together is a really cool thing. And because I'm using sabermetric stats for the game engine itself, it allows cross-era play. It's actually built for cross-era play. That was one of the reasons I built it this way, is because I thought that would be a cool thing to be able to match up anybody in history against each other. And so sabermetric stats are actually created to compare players across history. So it's a perfect match for cross-era play. So if you're looking for a game that's really good at doing cross-era, this game is actually built for that specific purpose. So some games have to do some different things to manipulate the game engine to make it work. This one just works right out of the gate, right out of the box. You can put any of these players against each other, and they're going to perform to the level that they perform, as if they were playing against one another. So Hanley Ramirez's 40 batting runs is going to be, equivalent to, I don't know who has 40 batting runs. Enos Slaughter has 46, right? They're going to have somewhat equivalent seasons. There'll be a little bit of difference maybe in their fielding, so their WAR is going to be a little bit different. But Charlie Keller, 159 weighted runs created plus, 144, 405 WOBA, 450 WOBA, a little bit of difference there. How they get to the numbers is going to be a little bit different, but that they actually are at a 40 clip. So you got 149, 144, 5.2 WAR, 5.8 WAR. So this guy's 40 season. They're almost equivalent seasons here. 948 OPS, 964, 27 and 104, 29 and 81. RBI opportunities are not always in your hands, but home run opportunities often are. So you can see that the seasons are equivalent. That's how they get to this number, is that they're using equivalent numbers. So the fact that you're at a particular batting runs means that you've done certain things during the season that get you there, right? That makes sense. So if your numbers are similar in the formula, then your numbers are going to be similar on the field as well. So it's a really clever way to kind of get everybody together sort of on the same playing field, so to speak. And in this way, you can do lots of adjustments and things like that. If you want to just go through and you want to mark some extra things because you think that there should be even more of an advantage or disadvantage to a batter or pitcher, you can just mark on the cards. It's no problem for me. Take this game, the vanilla game, and make it whatever you want. That's the whole point. And really, I give the game away. So if you want to do the legwork of all the players and stuff like that, I'll give you the game engine. You can take that and do with what you want. You can get game engines from 1940 all the way to 2000, the 2010s, and create the game that you want to create with the players that you want to create it with. These statistics can be found at fangraphs.com. You can also use, instead of batting runs, like here, you can use RBAT. That's the baseball reference equivalent. I have some videos about how to go out and get those stats. Actually, one video, and it just kind of shows you how to go and get those statistics if you want to download the DIY kit. And make the game what you want. That's really what I wanted to do. I only wanted to charge people because I put in the legwork to do all the player creation for you, the card creation. But if you want to do all that yourself, I'm not going to make you pay for the game engine itself. I want people to be able to play on-base baseball, and price not to be a factor in that. But if you want to not have to do all the work of making the cards and doing everything like that, then I've done that for you. So you can go out and just download it and play from the roster sheets, or you can play from the cards. So that's the only reason that I charge for what I do, is just for my time, really. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any comments or questions about this set, if you see anything funny, leave it down in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, click subscribe. I usually try to put out a couple of videos a week at least. During baseball season, maybe a little bit more, because baseball doesn't take quite as much time as football or basketball. And I'm always working on something. I just released the 1941 season for On Base today. And then if you go this weekend, opening weekend, there's also a 20% off sale on everything On Base Baseball and Quick Play Baseball, which is my Quick Play Baseball game. Now, I have to get another video of Quick Play Baseball out there just so people can see how that plays. It's got kind of 3 different game modes. There's a super fast, and then there's kind of a medium play, and then there's a real full play type of game with some interesting. It was a very fun game to make and kind of interesting to go about doing it. And that's actually a small part of a bigger game that maybe I'll get back to, called Tabletop Baseball Manager, where you sort of focus on, it puts you into a game situation, and then you have to sort of manage your way through the situation, as opposed to just kind of playing it out at bat by bat necessarily. But it's more like the medium play game with another layer added on top of it. So check out Quick Play Baseball. I've got some videos over at the On Base Baseball channel. I don't know if I have any quick play videos here at Clark and Addison Gaming. I'm in transition of bringing everything over to this singular YouTube site, as I pulled all of my individual games into one umbrella site, which is clarkandaddisongaming.com, and also the YouTube channel. So this is the place where I'm posting new content, but I do have some old content over at On Base Baseball and some other Game of Dice Baseball, some other places where I still have some content. So if you want to check those out, you can, but if you want to subscribe, this is where new content will be coming out for all of my games. If you like this video, just click the thumbs up. Super easy way to support what I'm doing here. And if you want to share this, that'd be awesome. If you know somebody that would appreciate hearing this or seeing this set, share it to your social media platforms, or to any forums that you're in that you're excited about something. I'm all for it. That helps expose more people to the games. On Base Baseball was also featured in Sports Sim Magazine. They interviewed me, and that interview is in the new magazine, which is hot off the presses. So you can go and look that up and get that, and see that interview with me about On Base Baseball, kind of where On Base came from and what the journey was, and a little bit about the game. You can also download that 1941 season for free. So that's going to be sort of my free demo game that people can download. Check out the game, play an entire season, get a real good feel for On Base Baseball, and then if they want to purchase other seasons or decade roster sheet sets, then those will be available as well. So if you want to share that, that would be great too. clarkandaddisongaming.com is the website address of the where you can find all my games, baseball, basketball, and football. And I really appreciated the support of the community at this point. I'm a new designer, just trying to get more games out there, and maybe give people a little bit of a different option than just APA and Stratomatic and payoff pitch, inside pitch, season ticket. Those are all great, but this game is a little quicker in terms of simplicity and ease of play. The footprint is pretty small, and you can play everything straight off the cards. And then there's the advantage of, if you love sabermetric stats, it's got a lot of those on the cards themselves, so that you can get a little bit different view of some of these seasons that you've always seen with cards and dice. All right, I think that's it from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.